We got some new my friends, and this one has a little secret under the hood. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about this new Magni. Huge thank you to today's sponsor, Flexispot. At the end of this video, you can learn a little bit more about their products. This is the new Magni. It's their headphone amplifier, their most affordable one. Let's talk about price, my friends. It is $119 for the headphone amp alone. Doing a little bit of math and exploring an inflation calculator, the first Magni came out in, I don't know, I think it's 2010, and it was $99. A $119 Magni in 2024 is equivalent to $85 in 2010, which means the new Magni was cheaper than the first Magni. This one has 3 different gain settings. Actually has a negative gain if you're listening to IEMs. Very sensitive, kind of like me. Then it has a middle gain and then a high gain. Listen to a couple different headphones. The one I spent the most time with is actually the Sindara closed back. We're going to be talking about that too later in the video. Be a little mini review. Also listen to the HiFiMan Edition XS. Didn't listen to any dynamic headphones. I never learn with dynamic headphones. I think, you know what, it's going to be okay. It's kind of like jalapenos. I get all excited about it, and then 2 hours later, I wish I was dead. Made in Texas, and I've actually been to the facility in Corpus Christi. It's amazing. It's modular. Here's the new little secret for the new Magni Unity. USB DAC. So if you want to go super minimalist, the only thing that you need is this and a computer and a pair of headphones, and you're rocking and rolling. If you include the optional USB module, it's going to come in at $189. Doesn't have optical or coaxial, but if you think about it, if you're going to go with the internal DAC, chances are this is sitting right next to your computer, so you don't really need optical or coaxial. Has overcurrent and a DC correction circuit. I don't really know what that means, except that it's good for your headphones. Schiit also used blind testing to design this. Oh my goodness. An audio company that actually has people listen to their products before they release it. What a concept. So I think the new Magni actually measures better than previous generation of Magnis, but it doesn't matter. What really matters is how it sounds. We'll talk more about that later. The DAC is an ES9018 and it uses TI OPA 1656 op amps somewhere. Anyway, that's a bunch of words for it's good. Also uses their own Unison USB technology. So no weird USB drivers. And I'm gonna read this right off the screen. Magni Unity debuts are new, super linear, high precision, current feedback, discrete topology, and exotic bespoke amplifier stage unlike anything available from the competition. Coupled with the best parts from a custom sorted Alps potentiometer to silicon and film capacitors and 0.5% thin film resistors, Magni Unity delivers better sound as confirmed by our blind listening tests. 3-year, 15-day return policy. And I love it when you can actually contact a company if you have any warranty issues. Let's talk about power. This little thing packs quite a punch. 16 ohms, you get 3 watts RMS per channel. 32 ohms, 2.5 watts. 50 ohms, 1.5 watts. 300 ohms, 450 milliwatts. 600 ohms, very common, 220 milliwatts. I don't have any other Magnis on hand, and frankly, I don't have any other really affordable headphone amps on hand because I've done a big clean out. But this little thing is very dense, and it has an external power supply. Uses a 16 volt 1 amp power supply. That's 16 watts, my friends, if I'm doing my math correctly. Anyway, Schiit uses 16 volt power supplies on a lot of their products, which is smart because then they can pass that savings on to you because they're buying all these power supplies in bulk, in quantity. Comparing the DAC on the inside of the new Magni Unity to the SMSL SU1 running Tidal from my computer. Number one, if you're into MQA, you're not gonna get that on the Magni Unity, so you might want to pass on the internal DAC. Number two, comparing it sonically, frankly, I couldn't hear a ton of difference. There may be a slight separation advantage that the SU1 has, but it's gonna be slight. Definitely no night and day difference, and I would have no idea which DAC I was listening to if I was blindfolded and somebody was changing these around and then having me listen to them. Listen to Over the Hills and Far Away by Led Zeppelin, the remastered version. That song has a lot of, well, detail in the beginning because of the guitar. Then it has a lot of dynamics when the drums come in, and then you get to hear a lot of vocal clarity when Robert Plant comes in after the initial intro. I couldn't tell a difference, really. Maybe the SU1's a little bit more cleanly defined around the edges. When I say edges, I mean really everything. Instrument smearing, basically everything's just gonna be a little bit cleaner. I can't say 100% for sure though. Final thoughts on the Magni Unity. First of all, a little public service announcement. Don't buy cheap 3.5 millimeters to 6.35 millimeter adapters, because this happens, and this got stuck in the Magni Unity. So I had to take this apart, and luckily I was able to pull up some pins just a little bit on the headphone socket receiver to get this out. That really makes me mad. Actually pretty easy to get this thing apart. Just 2 screws right there, and then you pull the volume knob and pull it off. Anyway, it's a masterpiece. It's wonderful. For $119, you're getting more power than the OG Magni. I think it seems a little bit more dynamic. I always kind of remember the OG Magnis and even some of the second generation being great, being super clean, not having as much oomph on the bottom. But my reference headphone amp is the Arco 3 Pro from Shelly Labs, which comes in, I think, around $400 or $500. I'll just put it to you this way. If I only had the Magni Unity, I wouldn't be crying. I wouldn't be feeling like I was gonna miss out on a whole bunch of stuff. However, it's gonna depend on which headphones you have. And if you want kind of a bonus review, stick around for the next segment, because I'm going to talk about the HiFiMan Sundara closeback. But it depends upon what headphones you have connected to the Magni Unity. If you have something like the Meze 99s, the HiFiMan Sundara, something that is not super revealing in the mid-range and top end, now you can get the closeback Sundaras. Hyper revealing. We're going to talk about that later though. If you don't have a super resolving headphone, something warm, then there's zero reason to get any other headphone amplifier other than the Magni Unity. Unless you just want something a little bit different, a little bit bigger, but from a sonic standpoint, it's flawless. It's a 10 out of 10 at its price. 10 out of 10 at its price. Think it's competing, think it sounds better than stuff multiples its price. And it's made in the USA, and you have a 3-year warranty. Built well, 3 different levels of gain. Flawless. 10 out of 10. Remarkable job. How they improved upon the sound, how they improved upon the features, and actually lowered the price in real dollars is simply amazing. Let's talk about the HiFiMan Sundara closedbacks. These are the HiFiMan Sundara closedbacks. They come in at $149, and I was actually surprised because I thought they would be more expensive. Built very similarly to the HiFiMan Sundaras, but they have a lot of metal parts. Top of the band is metal. The yokes that hold the ear cups are metal. There's a nice comfort strap. The cups, I don't know if they look like they're wood. I don't know if they're really wood though. Probably are. If you want to see the specs, I mean, just go look them up. I'm not a spec guy. I care about how things sound. Frankly, if I read a bunch of specs before I do a review, then I think it kind of influences the review, so I don't read any specs. Planar drivers on the inside. The ear pads have 6 tabs that they're attached to the cup. So changing out the pads, not gonna be super easy, but maybe HiFiMan offers some different ones. I didn't really feel like I needed to change them out. Sonically, these are a huge departure from the regular Sindars. Regular Sindars were light on bass, super detailed throughout everything else. They just sounded incredibly clean, incredibly revealing. These are thick. These are warm. Actually, I had to EQ these down a little bit at 500, 300, 125 hertz when I was listening to them with the Weem as the source to bring up a little bit of detail into, or bring back a little bit. The detail's there, right? It's just being covered up a little bit with 500, 300, 125 hertz. Felt like that was a little bit elevated. When I brought those frequencies down, guess what? There's the detail in the mid-range. Also popped up 8K and 16K just a titch. Get a little bit of air going on. But these are fun. At $149, they got a lot of punch. And to me, this is the best headphone that you can get under $200 if you like that warmer, oomphy sound on the bottom. If you want a really flat frequency response, you're not going to get it with these unless you EQ them. I'm still surprised that they're $149. You're going to need a headphone amp though, and that's why this is a perfect pairing with the Magni Unity, because that whole package coming in around $300 depending upon if you get the internal DAC or not. So awesome that there's a closed planar that doesn't sound terrible and isn't super expensive. $150 for a closed back planar. That is awesome. To me, it reminds me of the Meze 99 Classics, but with more detail on top. Cool thing is, the Meze 99 Classics didn't really take very well to EQ. This takes very well to EQ. Love these, love them.
I am not a small guy, and I'm sitting on top of the Flexispot E7 Pro desk.
This beautiful thing right here is the Flexispot desk. This is the E7 Pro.
And this thing I'm sitting in right now is the C7 Air chair, and it's awesome. Why is it awesome? Because you can do this. Just kidding, every chair can do that, right? I bought a lot of chairs in my life. And the one thing they all had in common is they didn't hold me up. I'm not a small guy. I weigh about 230. Most of the chairs that I've got in look nice. They feel good, but then they do this. And not when I want them to do that.
The C7 chair has an adjustable headrest, self-adaptive back support, breathable mesh back, 4D adjustable armrest, forward seat tilt, and 90 degrees to 128 degrees recline. But most importantly, it holds 300 pounds. So even if you're a big guy like me, this chair is actually gonna stay where it's supposed to stay.
I've seen standing desks for a while, but the E7 is not really a standing desk in my opinion. This is kind of a command center for whatever job you're doing. Mine goes down to 26 inches low, all the way up to 50 inches high. My daughter is actually able to just walk underneath it when it was fully extended. The kids also had a good time of riding on it because this thing supports up to 440 pounds. Probably enough to hold your computer, monitor, keyboard, mouse, hard drive, anything else that you want to put on it. Immediately when I got this put together, and by the way, putting it together was a breeze. Very simple, good hardware. A lot of times when I put together stuff that comes in a variety of boxes, it's not the easiest assembly. When I'm putting it together, the only thing that I could think of was, I wish I would have had this sooner. And not just for doing office work, but for doing projects. Because you can bring it down and up exactly where you need it to be, this would be the perfect workbench. Electronics bench especially. There's been so many times where I've been making a speaker that I wish I could get either higher or lower because my back would start to hurt. I could put this thing chest high if I wanted to and kind of lean on it to do any type of solder work. If the kids and I were putting together a Lego set, we could put it all the way down and sit on stools or even the ground. I love details though, and one of the coolest details about the Flexispot E7 Pro, this, what is it? It's a magnetic cable cover. So underneath you have the main support for the top. All of the electronics and cords go in there. And this simply goes around and attaches with magnets. It's a simple, elegant, and one of those things where you're like, why didn't other people think of this? And right here you have a tray that you can run pretty much all of your cords. Put an SSD down there, maybe hang some headphones from it. I'm really impressed with the Flexispot E7. I'm gonna call it a workbench because that's what I think most people could use it as. And if you're a creator, if you're a YouTuber, this thing is awesome. Why? If you live in a studio apartment, this thing could be your dining room table, your office, and your workshop all in one. Completely blown away. Thank you so much, Flexispot, for sponsoring today's video. So check out flexispot.com/cheapaudioman. See all the awesome sales going on right now. Thank you, Flexispot.